You're listening to Potty Mouth Radio, the home of movies, music, television, and comedy. The following podcast contains spoilers and rude words. We watch a thing. We watch a thing. Hello, everybody, and welcome back to We Watched a Thing with Billy and Dave. How you doing this week, mate?
I'm good.
I know you're
I
good.
get to talk to people other than you.
That's right, because we're looking at the two most beautiful faces in podcasting right now. It's a shame it's an audio-only medium, because please welcome Jason from Binge Movies and Julio from the Contrarians. How are you guys doing?
I was doing great until I realized that you didn't feel that I was a good enough podcaster for me to do this episode, which I co-created with you a couple of years ago.
That's right, yeah.
Myself. Now you're bringing in one of my arch nemesis.
I told you off mic, Jason. We didn't invite him. He just hacked the feed.
I 100% believe it. This is how he lives his life.
It's all about balance. You can't have the Jason without the Julio.
Oh, God.
Somebody is going to simp or just the regular blockbusters. Then
Your
somebody has to
El
be there.
Tabata is.
Yeah.
Who's the simp in that, Julio? Am I the simp or are you the simp?
We take turns. That's
I
why.
see. All right. Well, yeah, they say simping ain't easy.
As you mentioned, Jason, this is your third time, I think, doing this topic with me, and second time with
predates
Dave
Big
on
Dave.
as well. Yeah, that's right. Because, of course, way back in the day, when I first started this show, we used to do our best of the year list, and former co-host Topher would never let me do a worst of list because he was like, it's cruel, it's mean. And then there you are, flying the flag of fuck that noise. I think every time you've done this with me, you've gone on a 10-minute diatribe about how there's nothing wrong with a worst of list. So this is going to be a lot of fun. And Julio, our great friend, I've said this before, Julio, you were probably my first friend in podcasting like 7 years ago. Your whole shtick is, talking up what's shit and what's great and doing the opposite of what people expect. So really, I brought you on so that you could have Nosferatu on the list and that'd be fun.
It's right there staring at me from my notes app. One of the few things that Jason and I agree on is that we scoff at the idea that worst off lists have no place in a society. I think that's something people say to make themselves feel better about the fact that they're not posting one. But I think if you have strong opinions, you got to call it like it is.
Yeah.
So,
well, my thing is you spend the whole year critiquing films, saying what's good and what's bad. You give things 0.5 stars, but then at the end of the year, it's considered tacky to make a list of those.
That is the most succinct argument that's ever been made.
Yeah.
I think I said last year, every other career on the planet has some form of performance appraisal. Why should actors and filmmakers somehow be exempt from having to answer for their crimes at the end of the year?
That's true.
So I'm really looking forward to this. I have to ask, how did all you guys go making your lists this year? Was it easy? Was it tough? Do you guys think that generally 2024 was a good year for cinema?
I think it is, right? But I am not as informed as probably the three of you. I usually watch the movies. I catch up like as the year winds up. So right now is when I'm starting to watch all the big names, like the ones that are for awards contention, all that stuff. There's a few that I caught in theaters, and I don't go out of my way to watch a movie that I already expect to be bad. So unless it's something like Kraven the Hunter, where I know we're in for something fun no matter what. So I am curious if your lists are going to be movies that are like, why did you even go see that in the first place?
Yeah,
like in my case,
mentioned
on
one
my
of them.
list, my lists are movies that I went really expecting to like them, and then it disappointed me. So no, and I have some runners up that might be called out by you guys. I don't know, but I think every year is a good year. I don't know that there's some years that are better than others, but I think that overall, if you look deep enough, you always find good stuff that's exceptional.
I agree. I think that's the best way to approach film. I'm the same. I never go into a movie hoping or expecting it to be bad. Like even Kraven the Hunter, I'm the one guy on earth who liked Madam Web. So I was a little hopeful that maybe that'd be good. So I never go in hoping for something to be bad. I actually really struggled with this list because I've kind of fallen off Letterboxd this year, so I didn't have like a pre-list of rankings there. I had to actually look back and think, oh, what was bad this year? How about you, Jason? How'd you go?
Despite my presence being taken for granted, I worked all year on this list from the January 1.
Yeah.
I created a separate private list that no one could see but me, just for your show, and I would fluctuate it all year long until I got it down to the final 10, and I had 9 probably by June.
Wow. Okay.
And then I was like, oh man, and I only had maybe 7 in my best of, which I'll be doing over at the Countdown as one of their first episodes coming back after their semi-retirement. So you can listen to that in the not too distant future. I'm going to be. See, they put me in a cherished position over there.
See,
and then you put me in a horrible position by having me have to podcast with Julio.
It's funny because next week we're having Paul on to do best of on our show.
Sure Paul. I'm sure you'll add Paul without my knowledge next year to this one. It'll be me, Paul, and Julio.
If it makes
get bigger every year.
If it makes you feel better, Paul is hopefully going to be sharing the limelight as well. We're going to have 2 guests for that show as well. So it's not just
it's not about the limelight. It's about who I have to share it with.
Well, let's get.
So, Jason, hang on. I have to ask now, Jason. So do you make an effort to watch everything that comes out, and that's how you end up with like that many movies on your bad list by June?
I try to skip as many bad movies this year as possible.
Yeah.
So I skipped a lot of good movies this year as well. I had like early tickets for Anora, which I haven't seen. A lot of people seem to like.
I saw it last week.
I didn't go to either showing, and then I paid for a ticket and still didn't go. So I went 3 times. I just couldn't be bothered, and I was like, maybe I need a break from movies. Maybe I've binged too hard over the last few years. That I'm like, I can't even be asked to get up and go 15 minutes down to my local Cinemark. And part of that is also in the fear that Julio will be managing it when I get there as a former Cinemark manager who claims he was so beloved by the corporation that people cried when he left, and yet he still chose to leave.
They were crying because I was leaving. They were crying also because of COVID around that time. It was intense emotions.
He said he loved it there so much that he immediately quit for more money. So that shows you everything you need to know about Julio.
Podcasting doesn't pay the bills. So
you're the Cinemark, apparently.
All right. Well, Jason, since we did you dirty by having another guest on, I'm going to let you pick.
No. Have Julio on. I want to be specific. I would gladly spend this time with anybody but Julio.
I'm going to let you pick. Would you rather give us your number 5 first, or would you like to go last so that you get to reveal your number 1 last?
See,
big finale.
I half-ass created this concept, and every year I put 10 on this fucking list. It's only 5.
Yeah, like Gerald Morris, we do a top 5, and then we have 5 honorable mentions so that we're not breaking copyright with Paul and Wayne.
Yeah.
I see. Well, that show doesn't exist anymore. So their copyright is null and void. You are also Australian, so you are the successors and heirs apparent to the title. We should just call this We Watched a Countdown.
We counted a thing.
They're dead to us now. Fuck them. Okay. What did you ask me for real though? Would you the 5?
Would you like to reveal your 5 first, or do you want to go last so that you get to reveal your number 1 as the big finale of the episode?
I should not be the big finale because no one's seen this movie.
Okay. All right.
Form.
Why don't you kick us off with your number 5 then?
My number 5 is Boy Kills World. It's a Bill Skarsgård joint.
That was not a good movie.
Good call.
Yeah.
Wannabe anime, manga, John Wick. I was looking forward to it. I thought it had a reasonably good concept.
I thought the trailer looked good.
I thought the trailer looked pretty decent. I knew it was going to be like a B movie kind of a thing, but I'm fine with that. I like B movie genre movies. Mm-hmm. Jessica Roth, I think is how you say her name. Yeah. Who's from the Happy Death Day movies. I really like.
Yep.
And I thought, okay, this is going to be cool to see her in a B movie. Actually, I thought the action was terrible. I thought the performances were terrible. I thought the writing was terrible. I thought the direction was terrible. I hated everything about the movie. It was one of the first movies I saw that was like, this is immediately going on the list. I fucking hate it. I thought maybe
that for this list, but I agree with you. It was a massive disappointment.
A mess. It was just a mess of a
Yeah.
movie.
The writing was terrible.
Terrible.
The dialogue, everything was awful, and just some of the creative decisions that didn't make sense. The weird helmet with the freaking writing going across it that didn't make sense and then didn't need to be. Oh god, it was just horrendous.
Yeah.
And I had people telling me giving it like 4 out of 5 and stuff. I was like, did you even watch the same thing? It was just horrendous.
It was sometimes an action movie like this makes a lot of aesthetic decisions that harken back to like anime or old kung fu movies or whatever. And you watch it and you go, okay, I see what you're trying to do. And it's kind of cool. You know, as a non-anime guy, I don't know anything about anime, but it's like, oh yeah, it's kind of cool. Right. And like John Wick kind of does that, right? It's a little bit of like, almost like samurai movies.
Hyper real.
Yeah. But when somebody tries to do that, appeals to like hyper stylized and it's not cool, all you do is feel them trying.
Yeah. Yep. 100%.
And that's one of these. This is
it
one
comes
of
off
those movies
false.
the whole time.
Yeah.
Yes.
It doesn't feel like an homage by a
film.
filmmaker who loves those styles. It feels like
That's
it's
right.
trying to cash in on other films that homage those styles.
Yes.
The only reason it didn't make my list is it was so forgettable. Like I almost completely forgot I even watched that movie until you mentioned it just then.
Yeah, I would have too, except for the fact that it immediately went on my list.
Yeah.
And I've been working on this list for you, Billy, all year long.
I will say, not the last mention of Bill Skarsgård.
No, not for me either.
Yeah. It must have been at a festival or something in 2023 because it didn't come up for me on Letterboxd, but I did watch it this year, so I didn't think to check on IMDb release dates or anything, but that could.
I think it was a 23 movie, but it got dumped in the States like in January
I
or
saw
February.
it fairly in like May or something, and it was fairly fresh in Australia. So I'm assuming came out in about February in the rest of the world.
Yeah.
Yep.
Well, it was gone really quickly because I remember seeing the trailer thinking it looked cool, and then it was not playing anywhere. I think a week after it got released.
Have you seen it, Julio?
No, I mean I was curious, but not curious enough to like look it up after. Do they ever explain? Is there a reason why Archer does the inner monologue instead of using Bill Skarsgård?
Yeah, they do explain it. Yeah, it's something to do with. I think Archer was the voice of a video game that he liked playing. So that's
it's like a Street Fighter ripoff game.
Yeah.
It's like a stand-in for Street Fighter 2. Here's the thing. That concept could be kind of cool. The Archer voice is the exact wrong voice. That's not the voice that would be on Street Fighter 2 or Japanese video game. Like he's playing this Japanese video game. It wouldn't be that voice. Like the idea of his inner monologue being from and another thing, this bothered me. This is where I get nerdy. It's the wrong genre. The movie is a beat 'em up movie. Like Double Dragon, Streets of Rage, Final Fight. It's not Street Fighter 2, which is a 1v1 tournament fighter. So the game in the fucking movie should have been a beat 'em up, a side-scrolling beat 'em up.
Everything's a misstep.
And by the way, but here's the thing: those games don't have narrators. So if they wanted both gimmicks. They wanted a video game gimmick, but the genre of video game they're trying to emulate doesn't have a narrator, so he couldn't have had an inner monologue.
Like it's written by somebody who has seen their kids playing games and
that's
never
what it felt
played
like.
the game themselves,
Yes.
and then just filled in the gaps with better movies like Guns Akimbo and fucking Hunger Games and everything else that it
and One Piece. There's One Piece references and Naruto and all this sort of shit. Yeah, it's like a 50-year-old man watched a bunch of stuff that 12-year-olds 10 years ago were into, and then put it all into a screenplay and made a movie.
Sounds like you're describing Five Nights at Freddy's too. Like you could be describing so many movies right now. 50-year-old man who's never seen what he's writing about.
And the thing is, this sort of film lives or dies by how good the actions. And I'm with you, Jason, that the fight scenes were just shit. And how you can have people like Yayan Ruyan, who is the best fighter in The Raid, which has some of the best fighting.
Yep.
He is god tier of fucking martial artist. How you have him as a pivotal person in your film and still have shit fight scenes. That's a special kind of talent to be able to.
And when the I don't want to belabor this, we got to move on. But when the choreography looked like it could have been cool, it was directed and shot in such a way.
Oh God,
you couldn't tell what was happening. And was like, oh, wait, what? Wait, what's happening? It was bad. I was angry in my seat. This is the second most angry I've been all like in the last 5 years. The first
Really?
was Skinamarink, where I was so agitated watching Skinamarink, I got a migraine in the theater, and immediately when the credits started rolling, I got up out of my seat and practically sprinted out of that theater. I hated that movie.
Yeah.
Boy Kills World is the second one. I was
Skimmering wouldn't even qualify for a list like this because it's not a film. It's a slideshow.
That fucking blows. Fuck you, Skinamarink. Okay, I'm done.
All right. Julio, why don't you give us your number 5?
All right, my number 5. Gonna start us off hot here because I don't think any of you has this on your list, and I know I'm in the minority, but one of the worst movie experiences I had this past year was going to see Civil War.
Oh,
April 2nd.
Wow.
We get it open.
Okay, yeah, definitely not in my worst of list.
Hated it. It's and I know a lot of people like praise it for some of the things that bother me, which is like I had a problem with it from the marketing because I felt like the marketing gave you like this sort of action movie vibe set in Civil War, which felt kind of like in poor taste. And it wasn't that, so I'll give it that. But what it was just this very kind of non-committal look at war journalism. Like it has the ideas and it tells you, like at some point it verbalizes them. It's like what this movie is about, or it should be about, is about these people that need to be neutral and need to stay away from interfering. All they're doing, they're just there to record what's happening, and then so that other people can pass judgment. They can decide that their role is to just record, and that in the long term, that dehumanizes them. And I think that Kirsten Dunst's character is good. Like that's what I wish we've been following the entire time. But then they introduce the point of view character, the one that you're supposed to relate to, which is the bright-eyed Kaylee Spaney character. And it just felt like the movie was just dumbing it down for the rest of us. Like I don't buy anything that character does. I don't buy anything that happens to that character. I don't buy that they would agree to bring her along, even if Kirsten Dunst's journalism partner is trying to maybe sleep with her. I still don't buy that they would bring this young girl who knows nothing into like the war-torn United States. I don't buy every time that they run into like some sort of conflict, like the things that they do, it just feels like there's a point where she literally gets them taken hostage by crazy Jesse Plemons.
Yeah,
because it was like, how dumb is she? It's like this is supposed to be a really smart movie, and it moves its plot along by having characters acting really dumbly. And I think that it shortchanges the Kirsten Dunst character towards the end, to where the things that happen to her in that third act, so that we can get the ending that we get, are not earned. There's this crucial, I don't know how much we're going into spoilers, but there's like this crucial turn where she has a breakdown that basically just makes the rest of the third act happen. And I didn't buy it, from everything that we'd seen that character go through. I felt that if we were going to focus on that breakdown, we needed that breakdown to really be the focus of it, instead of the Kaylee Spaney character that I didn't care about. I
felt a breakdown more than I bought Kaylee Spaney in the course of a few days, going through the arc that would have taken Kirsten Dunst her entire life to get to being that jaded. You need 20 years of being in war zones and seeing that shit and not getting involved to be as jaded and uncaring as Kaylee Spaney is after a road trip.
Yeah,
I didn't see
my list, but as a massive Alex Garland fan, I think this was his weakest film by a long shot. I enjoyed it, but it was disappointing to me.
I didn't see the Kirsten Dunst stuff as a breakdown, more as it was almost like a reawakening of her conscience.
Yeah,
it felt like she's starting to notice nature and all these different things. It was like the humanity that had been submerged as a survival mechanism was starting to come back, and I think that's crucial. Yeah, that's the crucial point of the film, which is like you cannot be human because to be her ultimate decision in the movie is a human decision, and that's it cost her, right? So like it's like all Garland stuff. It's a deeply cynical movie, so it's like being human in war will cost you your life, basically.
I personally loved it, and my memory is that as soon as I walked out, the first thing I did was download your instant reaction, Jason, because I was like, I need to hear what an American thinks of this film. Because
that's my thing. Maybe Julio was like, this is speaking against the government that I prefer. It's very obviously leftist propaganda.
Shaking his head.
No, because it doesn't even, it removes itself from that conversation pretty early on.
I disagree. See,
I think it's pretty clear.
I think it's very clear who the bad side in that.
But see, Julio's on Twitter. He likes.
Yeah, I've seen so many people have that argument that it doesn't pick a side, and maybe it's just that I'm not American. But to me, I'm like, it very, very clearly has. Like, I think it's actually pretty brave filmmaking from Garland to, as a non-American, to so clearly
I think it picks a side in the sense that it tells you who the good guys and the bad guys are.
Yeah,
but I don't think that it picks a side in America, which I'm fine with. But don't tell me that it's picking a side in America. I mean, that movie could be taking place in any country, any war-torn country, and it's not like you can actually
see. As an outsider looking in, that movie could only take place in America, and honestly, it's scary. It's scary how close that film feels like it could actually happen in the next year or two. Like,
100%.
Like, and again, maybe this is me being a non-American. The other thing is, I've spent a lot of time as a news cameraman.
I think it's the fact that Julio is cheering for a particular side.
Listen, I wish that President Nick Offerman had been wearing his MAGA hat just to really drive the point home.
Yeah.
But no, I didn't. I think that you could go either way, right? You could have made it so specific that you could trace every parallel to America, which I would have felt like it was preachy and overdoing it. And why bother? It's like at this point you're preaching to the choir. So then you do the other thing, which is like, I'm just going to make it to where it's just, it's kind of like your post-apocalyptic, post-Civil War. I get it, right? Well, it could only happen in America because of like the amount of land and the way that America is originally distributed.
I think it could only happen in America because of the people of America. I know that I shouldn't be saying that. And this is as a non-American. This is looking from the outside in. And like, I've been to America, I've traveled around. Like, Americans are actually lovely people, even in places where you don't expect them to be. People are very, very friendly and welcoming. And honestly, that kind of surprised me. But I think that this story could only take place in America.
Yeah, but underneath all that friendliness is a bunch of AR-15s and people who
and that's exactly right.
Conspiratorial.
I went to Wyoming, for example, and people in Wyoming were absolutely lovely. And yet this guy was driving us around. He had this gun in the front of his car, and he said, #1 rule of gun safety: always keep it loaded and always keep the safety off, because you never know how quickly you're going to have to use it. And I'm like, that's fucked. Like, you're being nice to me right now, but I don't want to do anything to upset you ever. And this guy's whole mission in life was to shoot a bear. He was like, bear protect. You're only allowed to shoot one in your life. He's like, it's I don't know, some kind of hunting legal rule thing. He's like, you're only allowed to shoot
conservation.
One. Yeah, and he's like, it was his main goal in life was to shoot a bear, and it was terrifying. Like, as a non-American, I loved that movie. I think the other thing that I have a different perspective on is I spent many years as a news cameraman, and I spent many years dealing with journalists and stuff, and so. To me, I was surprised at how much Garland actually nailed that. All of the characters were very similar to people that I've met and worked with. So,
how often did you find yourself taken hostage because one of your buddies had to like jump to a different car so they could drive off?
I mean, I was never in a situation like that. But
I don't think anybody has. I think that's just the movie being a movie, and that's that. I think that there's two levels, right? Either you're telling me this gritty future America where, you know, it's reality, or you're telling me like, oh, this kind of like action movie that's going to have like some parallels to what's happening right now, but it's mostly about entertaining you. And I think that the Kaylee Spaney character and what happens with her belongs to one type of movie.
Yeah.
And then the Kirsten Dunst character and the setting belongs to a different one. And that clash doesn't work. I mean, I didn't hate the movie. Like I said, I don't go out of the way to like watch movies that I know I'm going to hate. I gave it 2 stars when it was all over, because I really liked the Kirsten Dunst performance. I liked what the movie was trying to say at times, but I just felt like it blew it at the end. And that is ultimately, like, it's independently of whether you buy that it's only in America or it's somewhere else in the world.
Yeah.
Like, I didn't feel that the movie did enough with the idea that what these journalists are going through, because at the end, I feel like it's playing to its audience. Like, it knows what it's, what the average moviegoer wants, which is like, oh, but tell us, like, we're the bad guys, we're the good guys, and who's Trump, who are the Republicans, who are the Democrats. And I think it kind of gets lost in that, even though it was trying to not be specific. I think that in the end, in trying to give you this, you don't need to see them. Like the fact that they storm the Capitol or storm the White House and drag Offerman off, and now I'm spoiling the hell out of the movie, but it's that stuff feels like almost irrelevant to the main story, which was for me like Kirsten Dunst. And by the way, when I was talking about the breakdown, it's not when she jumps to save Kelly Spaney, but when they're in the middle of like the big shootout with the tanks making their way, and she just freezes and starts crying. Yeah. And it's like there's been plenty of instances in the movie where she's kind of brushed it off, and I felt like we could have used a little more connective tissue to get me to that point where this is the one that's gonna break her, right?
Well, there's little things along the way though, like where they're pinned down at that Christmas village thing, and she's not paying attention. She's looking at the little flowers that are coming up, and it macro shots the flowers, and there's just these when they're after what's his face dies, and there's all the embers from the burning in when they're driving after that whole incident with Jesse Plemons, and she's just sort of staring off into the, like, she's coming back awake to humanity, so that when that moment happens and she cries and freezes and can't move, it's because she's human again. Her sense of like right and wrong is coming back to her. She cannot be impartial, amoral anymore. She has to become involved, and she doesn't, and so her emotions, all that stuff that she's been pushing aside is, and I know, Julio, what you're gonna say, that's woke, that's DEI, and
go woke, go broke,
go woke, go broke, that women can't be journalists. I know how you feel about those things, but for those of us who live in the 21st century, we like the movie. What can we say?
I wish that they had connected it better.
Yeah,
because
I can see that.
Like those moments that you're describing, like they're actually pretty cool. Because if I remember correctly, there's like some slow mo going on, and the way that it looks. I wish that we'd had that same thing when she breaks down at the, like give me some visual connection if you're not gonna verbalize it, because there's no time to verbalize it. But instead, it just feels like, oh, she just broke down. Like it's not, it just feels like she just froze. So.
Yeah. I honestly, all jokes aside, I've been busting his chops pretty hard in this episode. I don't feel like you're out of pocket for what you're saying. I think those are all legitimate criticisms. I just think overall the movie still worked really well for me, and you may hear me talk more about it on another Australian podcast that's semi-defunct.
You may hear me talk about it next week.
But
I certainly don't think you're alone, Julio. I've heard all those criticisms before. From memory, Topher didn't like it at all. So
you were a lot warmer on it than I was when we did it. I thought it was very unevenly written. I think Garland was trying to do everything and ended up not quite getting there on any of the things, which kind of I think
that's fair. I think that's actually fair. It's like he
wants you to feel the confusion of the characters where they don't know what faction people. But the problem is, as an audience, you're then left with every scene going, are these the good guys? Which of the states are these people from?
But see, to me, I think that's the point. I think that's part of the point is that in war, everyone is just against anyone who's not them. Like there is no good or bad. They're all just against each other. That's.
I also say, as an American, we are effectively in a Cold War against each other right now.
Well, I think that's the other reason.
Very real, and so it's not coming to skirmishes all that much yet. But and it's not necessarily directly against our government, but the citizenry of the country is at a Cold War. We call it, it's polarization. No, we are. It's so much to the extreme that we are effectively in a cold war with ourselves as a people.
I would
And
like to point out that
corporations.
Jason just completely erased Jill Stein's contributions to American politics.
Yeah, Jill Stein's a Russian agent, so I don't really give a fuck about Jill Stein. Let me just say, if you're running as a third party candidate, but you're at a table with Elon Musk, Trump, and Putin, how third party are you?
One last thing about Civil War that it was actually the one thing I wrote down on my Letterboxd review. I think the performances, Kirsten Dunst aside, the performances are pretty weak. Kaylee Spaney's playing, whatever. I'll give that to that's direction. But the guy, I remember the guy from Narcos.
Yeah.
He has some big moments in that movie where I was just laughing. He goes so big. There's a couple of like big, it's after some of the traumatic things that happened to him. They have that shot where he's just like screaming at the camera, but they took the sound out, so it's just his big mouth in slow motion. It doesn't work. It maybe works if you're in tune with the movie, but I just couldn't. And then the background players, like the people that come in for like one line, two lines, I was like, what happened? Like, you have Kirsten Dunst putting on a hell of a performance, and then everybody else is kind of like 5 levels down. It was jarring.
Fair.
That's the episode, folks. All right. Good night, everybody.
I was going to see. This is why we have to do 5 instead of 10, because we're 43 minutes into recording and we're only halfway through our 5th picks. So
20 minutes of that was Jason giving us the history of American politics.
Yeah, feel free to cut that out.
We had to include Jason's TED talk.
All right, Dave, why don't you give us your number 5?
All right. I hope I'm not stealing thunder from Jason here, but my number 5 is one that I don't think Julio or Billy will have seen. It's a film called Space Cadet.
Oh, shit! Fuck you! Oh, you gotta be kidding me!
Is that your number 1, Jason?
That's my number 1. That's by far the worst movie maybe I've ever seen. Oh my god!
All right. Well, I'll briefly say what it's about, and then Jason can dissect it for the next half an hour. It's God, Emma Roberts, who I normally quite like. I mean, she's
also this is a real movie with a real cast. Then,
yeah.
Gabrielle Union and Emma Roberts are in it.
Yeah. Wow. Oh, Dave Foley, Sam Robards is in this fucking movie.
Yeah.
So Emma Roberts is it's a really shittily done riff on the kind of miscongeniality, Legally Blonde shtick, where someone who is woefully unsuited manages to finagle their way into something. So she's a bimbo who has 2 brain cells to rub together and has always loved space. Because when she was a little kid, I think she saw a mum who was a hippie, they watched a rocket take off together. And so her entire life, she's loved space. And so she decides she's going to apply to NASA, even though she's barely made it out of high school. And her friend, who is from memory, must be some sort of computer genius, because the friend always is, doctors her submission essay to say she's a Nobel Prize winner. She's got multiple doctorates from MIT. She's done this. She's I think she invented some method of saving the manatees or something, and sends this letter off. And that letter is enough to get her into the astronaut program at NASA with no vetting whatsoever. And so she gets to go to the astronaut program along with all of these, deserving people who are actually qualified. The astronaut program is run by Dave Foley, which alone makes this movie ridiculously unbelievable. She, as happens in these things, somehow ends up being better at everything than all the people who are actually quite. It's fucking it's not funny, which, something like this lives or dies by whether it can manage to make you laugh, like, say, Miscongeniality does. It's not funny. The acting's terrible. The writing is god-awful. It's directed badly. Liz, whatever her name is, who wrote and directed this and who's done nothing else apart from another couple of nothing films that no one's ever seen, should go back to waiting tables, because filmmaking is not for her. This thing was just terrible. Over to you, Jason.
Yes, this is my number 1. This is the worst movie I've seen all year. From scene to scene, the genre of the movie changes. because at some point, and I'm not joking, Dave, you can attest to this. It has the sensibilities of Legally Blonde, but it almost harkens back even further to like a old Goldie Hawn sort of comedy, right?
Yeah.
Where she's this very ditzy blonde who is accidentally put into the wrong program. She doesn't realize that her friend has done all this. She's basically like flaking out of life. She can't hold down a job. She's accomplishing nothing. And so her friend is like, well, fuck it. You've always wanted to go into space. I'm going to do this for you. And then, yeah, she's taken into this program, and they kind of start immediately figuring out that maybe she doesn't know what she's talking about, or she shouldn't really be there. But then, like, she has
it vacillates between her being a fish out of water bimbo who's completely out of her depth, and her being like Legally Blonde, where she might not have the polish, but she's super whip smart and has street smarts. And then the next minute, it's it's being hot shots, and then 5 minutes later, it's trying to be the right stuff or Top Gun and be almost
or Apollo 13. It becomes Apollo 13, and at one point, her roommate who's the smart one, right? But who has anxiety problems, so she can't do any of the physical stuff that Emma Roberts can, but she knows all of the actual space stuff. She immediately is like, "You're a fraud," and she's like, "Okay, I may be a fraud, but we can help each other. I'll give you the confidence, and you can help me study." And so they work together. Well, then there's some sort of, it comes down to the two of them. Yeah, it comes down to the two of them. This is where the movie takes a weird turn. And it comes down to Emma Roberts versus her roommate. And the roommate gets expelled out of the thing for some reason, kicked out of the program. And then the roommate's like, "You fucked me over. You screwed me. I'm the one that actually should be here, not you." You don't ever see that character again. They're gone. There's no make good for it. Eventually, Emma Roberts gets kicked out of the program because they figure out she's a fraud. Then the movie becomes a drama where she's under federal investigation. This was a light-hearted comedy that looked like it was from the Hallmark or Lifetime channel. And I swear to God, it looked like Dave will test. A lot of it looks like it was filmed on cell phones.
Oh, it's terrible. It's so bad.
It's so low production quality.
How do you end up watching this movie?
Yeah, what
Amazon Prime original film? And they marketed the shit out of it.
It was going to be. I like Emma Roberts. She's normally I thought, it's just going to be a bit of light froth. It's
farce.
It's
farce.
Never heard of it. So did they market it primarily on Prime? Like, where did you see all the marketing?
Yeah.
Okay.
And it was
it literally just came up as a that'll be a bit of fun, and it wasn't.
No, because then wait a minute. So the first two acts are kind of vacillating between, like he's saying, like comedy, Hot Shots, Legally Blonde, those Goldie Hawn movies, Overboard or something. You're like, oh, okay, this is not good, but it's semi kind of consistent. The last third of the movie is a straight drama. There's no more jokes in it. She's under federal investigation. I think she's under house arrest because she committed fraud against the federal government. When she lied on her thing, her life is ruined. Her family wants nothing to do with her. She's lost all the friends she made at space camp. Then they're set off into space, and they start dying in space, and she has to come up with a technique, which is then kind of a comedy gag about like something to do with the way she does her hair, like using a curling iron or some shit. She comes up with some sort of contraption to save stranded astronauts. And she goes back to NASA and is like, "I got it. I can figure out how to save the stranded astronauts." And they're like, "You're under arrest. We told you if you're trespassed again, we're going to put you under arrest." She's on her way to the federal penitentiary. She's in cuffs. They're marching her off. And then out of nowhere, Gabrielle Union's like, "Wait a minute. Maybe she does have an idea." They're like, "All right, you tell us what your idea is, but if it's bad, you're going to prison for the rest of your life, God damn it." I'm not joking. And then they come up with some cockamamie way for her to save the astronauts. And at the end, you're thinking, okay, well, this is like a feel-good comedy. She'll be an astronaut at the end. And at the end, they go, "Well, you still committed fraud. You can never be an astronaut. You're done. Thanks for saving the day." That's how the movie ends.
Oh, man.
It takes this really serious turn and becomes very quasi-realistic at the end, where it's like, well, no, you're not going to get out of the consequences just because you saved 5 astronauts. You still lied. You still committed fraud. You're lucky you're not in prison. You're going back to house arrest. The end. Like, what the fuck is this?
I've got to be honest. You guys have convinced me to watch it.
No, it's horrible. It's not even so bad. It's good.
Someone got Legally Blonde, Top Gun, The Right Stuff, and a couple of other films, loaded them all up into Chat GPT and said,
yes,
make these into a movie.
Yeah, right.
Like scene to scene, it's a different film. It's bizarre.
It's
And they keep doing this cutaway of Dave Foley being like, well, I better check on these references because something's not adding up here with this girl because she seems to be an idiot. And then they call her Asian friend who does a bunch of like stereotypical different, like, oh, like, you're like, what the fuck?
We'll have to beep that out.
her Asian friend who works at a nail salon or a gym or something. And then there's a whole subplot about how the Asian friend who works at the gym is pregnant by a guy she met off of Tinder and she doesn't know. And every time we cut back, she's a little bit more pregnant. And it looks like they just went to a real public gym and filmed it on a cell phone. It's so strange.
Oh, man.
It's strange. Yeah, please leave that out. That's strange. It's bad, man. You're like, God damn, how is any amount of money spent on this? And very little was probably, but
the cost of an iPhone 14.
Yes, and they didn't add $35 million worth of lenses to it like Steven Soderbergh does. They added nothing. They added no lenses to it. They took lenses away. Got the goddamn thing.
Next time, Dave, just go back to the tried and true Emma Roberts classic, Holiday. That's the one. If you're itching for an Emma Roberts fix,
that's a bad movie.
Maybe we're wrong, Dave. Maybe Emma Roberts is just bad.
All right.
No, she did probably all she could with the script she was given. She can't
call
control
your aunt, Emma. Emma, if you're listening, call your aunt. Have her pull some strings. God damn.
All right, my number 5 was actually the one I struggled with most. I very, very nearly, yesterday I went and saw Mufasa, the Lion King, and that nearly made my number 5 because it's not a good movie. It's really, really bad. But I'm going with another Disney movie, and even though maybe it was slightly more enjoyable than Mufasa, I still think it's terrible, and really it's what it represents. So I'm going with Moana 2, which was... You liked it, Julio?
I haven't seen it yet.
Right, okay. So I don't know if you know the history of Moana 2, but it was not supposed to be a movie. Up until March of 2024, it was a direct-to-Disney Plus series. It didn't have the original cast. And then literally at the last minute, they were like, no, we can make more money off of this. Let's make it a movie. And they got the cast back in. They spent 8 months or something, less than, must have been like 7 months.
Not even. Like probably more like
turning
4.
it into a theatrical release. And it's just garbage. It shouldn't happen. The songs are trash. The story's trash. Everything about it is so unenjoyable and uninspired, and it's just a pure cash grab. And the worst thing about it is it worked. It's like the 3rd highest grossing film of the year, which just means that it gives studios the okay to keep doing this. Like,
all the wrong lessons will be learned.
Yeah, that's right. The studios now are going to be like, sweet, this works.
Exorbitant Lin-Manuel Miranda prices. Just get the idiots that did Bridgerton the musical, and you'll still make.
Oh, look, I mean, Lin-Manuel. As far as I'm concerned, Mufasa just proved that Lin-Manuel is a hack who sometimes gets lucky, because the songs in Mufasa are almost as bad as the songs in Moana 2.
Do any of the animals rap way off beat?
Yeah. Yeah.
Oh, fuck. No. This guy's got one note, man.
Yeah. Yep. All of his characters sound like him. So I was so disappointed in Moana 2. I took the kids because they were so excited, of course. And even they haven't asked to watch it again. And that's the sign of a bad kids movie. Because even a bad kids movie, kids around the age of 6, they just want to watch it over and over and over again. And Moana 2, we got in the car and they wanted to listen to the Moana 1 soundtrack on the way home. Because it just reminded them of something better, something actually meaningful.
The song in Moana 2 is a weak, bad imitation of a song in the first film.
Yeah.
They're not even original enough to do a bad song that's new. They've got to take the Rock's You're Welcome song and then literally change 4 notes in the melody to make it not quite as good and do some bad lyrics for it.
And it's I know it's naff to say so, but I'm a Disney fanboy. I wanted this movie to be good. I like Disney movies. Disneyland is the happiest fucking place on earth for me. But
how many times have you been there this year?
To Disneyland? Not this year.
Yeah.
I mean, it's a long way away.
Then you're not a real fan. I'm sorry. If you're not there 2 or 3 times a week, you're not about that life. You watch YouTube? You watch YouTube?
But so disappointing. So there you go. My number 5 is Moana 2. So we're back to you, Jason.
Number 4, I'll try to be brief with this, is Taro. I thought the creature designs for Taro, the actual different ghouls and ghosts, were actually pretty well done. And the monsters aspect of it was pretty well shot. I thought that it's a little cliche. It's a little hackneyed. We're going to find cursed tarot cards in an attic and decide to do a reading. And now the boogeyman, they're going to come and get us. But, and you're going to die like the depiction in the card or whatever. I thought, okay, that's a interesting enough sort of premise. They try to put basically an A24 veneer on a Blumhouse movie, which has been Blumhouse's go-to in the last couple of years. And also the movie, I don't know if you guys have seen it. I think, Billy, it sounds like you've seen it.
Yeah, I didn't hate
Taro. The movie then devolves more into like almost like a comedy.
Yeah,
at times,
and you're like, tonally, it's really weird. Even like the first half hour where they're having the party at the house, and the tone is very inconsistent. Yeah,
very inconsistent, and it's like, okay, either this is a lark, right? We're not really taking it all that serious. It's a PG-13 movie, or it's trying to be talk to me. Be one or the other. If this movie is trying to be both, and you're like, so what ends up happening is it ends up being not very funny and not scary. And then it ends like kind of on an upbeat note, which I guess is like kind of different for a horror movie.
Yeah.
But I was just like, this is not good. I thought the acting was terrible. I thought the screenplay was terrible.
The acting is awful. Yeah.
It was awful, awful, awful. And the tonal inconsistencies.
Yeah.
Again, and I was just found myself really frustrated with the movie. It probably wouldn't have made my worst of list, except for the fact that I found some of the creature design for the different monsters, ghosts, or whatever you want to call them, spirits, actually pretty interesting and creative.
That's what I was going to say. I actually that's for me what saved it. Like, I don't think it's a good movie, but it was never in my contention for worst, because I do think it actually does some interesting things. I think conceptually the idea is there, and same as you, I thought that some of those scenes with the creatures and even just the way that they're played out and edited, I actually thought were pretty good. It's just a shame that those scenes don't make up the whole of the movie.
That was my disappointment, because I looked at it and it makes my worst of for the year list, because there was some kind of potential for a different version of this movie right there, and it kind of wasted it.
Yeah.
And there's like, even in horror movies that I like, and some of them are A24 movies, sometimes the creature design stuff really suffers. And this was a movie where you finally get some good creatures and you got a mediocre to bad movie around it, and definitely bad performances. So that's why it's on my list.
Yeah. Yeah. Fair enough.
It's the first time I've heard of that movie.
You're not missing anything. It's got Ned from the Spider-Man movies in it.
Number 4, September, 2 stars. Beetlejuice.
That's completely fucking fair. That nearly made my list. Fuck, that movie was trash.
I wanted to like it. I love the first Beetlejuice, and I didn't want this movie, and I remember from when they announced it, I was like, well, I'm not gonna go watch it because I think it's unnecessary. And then I saw the first trailer. I was like, well, they brought everybody back, and it looks like Tim Burton's having fun again, so I'll go see it. So I went actually excited for what it could be, and it's just, I guess it is Tim Burton having fun. It's just that it doesn't really translate to the audience. It's just like a bunch of things that he did, and it's an assortment of gags.
It felt like a Family Guy episode to me. It's so random.
Well, I think it's 5 different scripts throughout the years they ended up mashing together to make the movie.
You can feel
it's 5 different Beetlejuice movies, and you feel it. Yeah.
Yeah, but you could have, even like, if you're going to do that, if you're going to say, okay, well, every single idea we've ever had since the original Beetlejuice, we're going to make it into a movie, then have that be the concept, right? Don't even try to pretend that this is supposed to be a sequel that's supposed to carry some sort of weight, which I guess the final shot of the movie maybe is saying that. But what they do with the characters that come back is kind of a shame, right? Like particularly the Lydia character. I think that she is a fascinating character in the first movie, and where you find her in this movie is it's a bummer. But I mean, I'm okay with it being a bummer if the story of the movie is gonna be how we get her out of that situation, right? How he gets back to the character that she was in the first movie. Or if you want to make a tragedy, okay, well then she doesn't, right? But whatever, like make that the story. But we can go in on sidetracks. I don't care about her daughter, right? Even though you have the possibility there of like they even again, this is something they call out in the movie. They say, oh, the way that Jenna Ortega is to her is the way that she used to be to Catherine O'Hara in the first movie. I was like, man, you have the bones there for a movie, but it's like they call it out and then just forget about it, right? Like threats keep coming up and then shrugged off. The musical sequences are
oh my god
embarrassing to watch. It's like
Julio.
The climatic one, it's trying so hard.
My favorite scenes of any movie this year.
Nah, it was such a bad movie. That Soul Train scene made me cringe in my seat.
Like Soul Train is bad, but the one they do at the end at the wedding that goes on forever, it misses the point that, like, if you want to get really nerdy, the coconut song in the first movie, that's the Maitlands doing that. That's the kind of that's the kind of sense of humor that they would have because they're dorks.
Yeah.
So they would do that and it would fail. I don't think that we ever see Beetlejuice in the first movie be this fucking cringy when it comes to his sons, right? He's more about like being efficient and being scary and that. He doesn't put on like musical numbers. Yeah. And then on top of that, it's not good. And like I know logistically you can't have Alec Baldwin and Gina Davis back because they don't look the way, they've aged.
They could
like, you can pull it off with Beetlejuice himself, but you can't have with them. But
no, they couldn't, Billy. You said that last time.
They could have. I'm sorry. Beetlejuice 1 is a movie about the Maitlands. They are the main characters in that film.
If you're not going to have them, either one, don't do the movie, or give me more than just one line where like, oh, they found a loophole, so they're 100%. Not here. Yeah. Oh, like they were the most important relationship that Winona Ryder had in the first movie, and you literally just shrug them off. Yeah. And when they first said it, I thought that they were setting up a bigger reveal down the line, right? Where we're gonna have a serious scene where she explains what really happened to the Maitlands. No, that was it. That really they were like, well, we have to explain what they're not here, so we're just gonna do it in one line.
Yeah,
it's a bummer. I really wanted to like it. It made me feel bad that because I came out of the theater and there were people that had liked it, and there was this big family that wanted to take a picture in front of the big Beetlejuice standee, and they were posing, and I was just there kind of like sulking, and they're like, "Hey, can you take a picture?" So
you were like, "No."
Yeah, I was gonna say, did you refuse?
Out of focus. They stuck.
I'm a contrarian, goddammit. Go fuck yourself.
Listen to my show. No, it was a bummer. There are a couple things that are fun, because when you have that many gags, some of them are supposed to, they're bound to hit. But even like I like the Willem Dafoe performance. I don't really care about his character. Like he's there
so
for
out of place
really nothing. Like they come back to him, and then at the end, he's like literally frozen while the climax is happening. So it's like, what was the point?
Yeah, the one thing I did agree with Billy about is that while I liked Willem Dafoe in it, his character really didn't need to be there, because I don't think Monica Bellucci should have been there at all. I don't care if you're shagging the director. That character added nothing, and without her, you don't need Willem Dafoe. And I think excising those would have made the film better. As it is, it's still a 4-star film. But
4-star.
I loved it. Loved it.
Outrageous.
I can see the faults, but I still loved it.
If you have that on your best of list, Dave, this show is over. All right, you're number 4, Dave.
Oh, back to me. It's no surprises. Joker, Folie à Turd.
Yeah, on my shortlist, didn't make my top 5 though.
Fucking just a misstep in every way. The first one. The first film I hated. It was probably in my, I can't remember, it might have been in my 5 worst last year or the year before. This one was worse. I thought, it's going to lighten the mood. I kind of liked the idea of it being a musical, because I thought, that's just quirky enough that it could kind of save the morose, turgid snooze fest that the first one was. But no, Todd Phillips is just not a good enough filmmaker to be able to make this. every single step of this I thought was bad. The first 15 minutes or so, when it's just him in prison and it's really bleak, I thought I could watch this as a film, because I think it's kind of ignoring all of the kind of faux DC Batmanness of it all, and it's just a broken man in prison, and Phoenix is, he's a good actor, he can do this. From the minute fucking Lady Gaga enters the fray, and she's not bad, but that's kind of the point where the whole thing just went off a cliff. And from that point, it's about 5 hours too long.
Yes,
all the musical numbers are god awful.
Yeah, singing When the Saints Go Marching In 15 times does not a musical make.
No, it's not a musical, but but they're all bad. They have no reason for being there. There's no logical consistency for the purpose they're serving. Are they in his head? No. Well, some of them are. Some of them are them singing to each other, but no one else sings, so it's not a musical. And it's boring. And the little kind of coda at the end, spoilers if you haven't seen this fucking awful turd of a film, but. And I think, Billy, from memory, you disagreed with me about the intent of this. But for me, it's Todd Phillips going, oh, well, you all said it's not your Joker. Ha ha, I'm cleverer than you. It's not your Joker. Fuck you, Todd Phillips. Go back to making shitty hangover movies and leave us alone.
I was about to say, Dave, don't you get it? The whole thing is a middle finger to people that like the first movie.
Yeah.
Right?
I'm going to slightly agree and disagree with you, Dave, in the sense that I think the conceit of the Joker, forget the 2019 film. Just if you're going to say we're going to make a movie where the Joker is in a mental health facility that's not Arkham, is in some sort of weird jail mental health place, and while he's there, he meets Harley Quinn, and she's another patient. And that character is going to be played by Lady Gaga, and it's going to be a quasi musical. And about them maybe trying to escape and make it a quasi musical, but the musical is only going to be in their collective psychosis because they're both crazy as shit. I think that's a very interesting concept. You could have had a lot of fun with, and done a lot of dramatic and fun things with, and then. So I don't think the idea of behind this movie is bad necessarily. I don't think it fits with his 2019 film at all. And I think that he kind of, by the time the movie gets interesting, remotely interesting, you've already been sitting there for 2.5 hours. Yeah. So it's too long. And so it kind of finally gets to be about something interesting way too late. I kept thinking to myself, if you could take the last 45 minutes and make that the first 45 minutes of the movie and start from there, this might be more interesting. If he thinks he meets a Harley Quinn type and she's sort of egging him on to be more of the Joker, and he's representing himself as a Kentucky Fried lawyer in the courtroom, and it's this weird gag, but he's seen the consequences of his behavior and it breaks him, and he decides, and she abandons him, and then the movie really gets rolling, and then he escapes. And the whole thing blows up. There's your start of your movie. The movie just happens to start an hour and 45 minutes before then, with a lot of just sitting around. And I'm like, what the fuck is this? So,
yeah, bad movie. And not the last musical that's going to appear, I'll just say. My number...
Oh, no!
I told you we'd have crossovers, Billy.
Come on!
Well, surely my number 4 is going to be a crossover with somebody, because my number 4 is Borderlands. That has to be on someone else's list. Oh my God, no, it's not.
I would have had to watch it.
Honorable mention.
It is a really, really, really bad movie. And the most shocking thing about it is you've got Cate Blanchett playing a role that is it's so weird that she's in this movie. It just
Jamie
makes
Lee Curtis.
A role
Jamie
for a
Lee
20-year-old girl.
None of it makes any sense. Yeah. Jack Black is insufferable.
When Kevin Hart is one of the
voice.
best performers in your film, shit has gone seriously wrong.
Yeah, and tonally it makes no sense. There are moments where this film seems like it's leaning into be more of a fun romp action comedy, kind of Guardians of the Galaxy-esque, and then it just completely dismisses all that. It's just, I don't want to talk about this for too long. It's just, there's no point, but it's a really, really bad movie. So Borderlands is my number 4.
Who ended up getting the credit for directing it? Because What's
I
his face?
believe it was Eli Roth.
Eli Roth.
Yeah, but for a while though, he was off the project, and they brought somebody else in. I don't know if that was in Deadline or whatever. And then I think maybe they.
That's ringing a bell. Was it like a David Leitch or someone who was there for like?
Yeah, that's right.
I think it was pretty much Eli Roth. He's certainly credited, and I think but yeah, that rings a bell.
Yeah.
And Eli Roth has like disavowed the movie on social media. It was a nightmare to make. Everything.
It's certainly not up with the high caliber of all these previous offerings.
Well, that's what I was going to say. Okay, if you're going to do a video game adaptation for a game that was popular way too long ago to probably be adapting now, but fine. And it's going to be Borderlands. I don't know a ton about it, but it seems to me that Eli Roth doesn't have the right sensibilities for Borderlands. That's my feeling. Why was he selected as the guy to do this?
My understanding is it was like a passion project for him. I thought that he was the one who pushed to make it.
For it.
Yeah.
The weird thing is,
the
aesthetic they nailed it. It looks, and I was super excited. This was on my most anticipated of the year because I love the game and the aesthetic of the game, and they nailed the look of it. So the trailer made me super excited. And then obviously in the trailer, you don't get a sense of how god awful the script is, but.
So am I right? Since you love the game, am I right to say he's not the right director for what the game is? Like totally.
No, absolutely not the right. I mean, speaking of David Leitch or someone like that can have action and comedy successfully melded, that would be the sort of person that I would think would be able to pull this off, because you need the action stuff to work, obviously, but you need the one-liners, the quips. That shit needs to land.
Is the game gory at all? Because I was surprised at how neutered the film was, given it's Eli Roth. Like,
yeah, I mean, you're shooting people and they're blowing up. You're blowing heads off. It's a for us MA rated, probably R rated in the States in terms of a run and gun type game, but it's got a lot more kind of cynical one-liners and dry humor and that sort of thing, and toilet humor as well.
And I think you're right, Julio. He did the house with clocks in its walls or something.
That's
like that.
The one
Jack
weird
Black,
thing
right?
that
Jack Black and Cate Blanchett
was quite good.
I saw an interview with her where she was like, "Oh, I didn't know anything about Borderlands, but she enjoyed working with Eli Roth so much on that movie that she agreed to do this one because she just wanted to work with him again."
Yeah,
but apparently she's completely wrong for the character, right? Age wise and everything, Dave. She's playing.
Yeah. Well, I mean, Kate's what, late 50s or something,
and a bad actor.
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
I mean, she did quite well in them. I mean, like, she's swinging guns around and stuff and being semi-convincing. But
it's the most I've ever actually liked her, to be honest. It just
feels
weird.
Taking us back to our Life Aquatic conversation.
What is wrong with you, man?
I don't like Cate Blanchett. I don't like her at all. She's at least having fun in this. Like she's giving it her all. She's the only person who is.
No, wait. Be honest with yourself. When you watched Thor Ragnarok the first time, you didn't look at Cate Blanchett and wish that she would dominate you?
I did not. I wish.
Am I alone in that? Am I alone that when I watched Thor Ragnarok, I wanted a collar thrown around my neck with a leash and have it in her hand?
Please pop my eye.
Yeah, exactly. Gouge my eye out, mommy. You didn't say that in the theater? I did.
Alrighty, Jason, you're number 3.
This movie has a scene that is meant for complete dramatic effect, where a man is miraculously recovering from multiple sclerosis or some other sort of tragic degenerative condition. The doctor says, I can't believe it. You're recovering. We have no explanation for how this could be. What have you changed? What are you doing differently? And there's a medium wide shot of him, this lead character, and he smiles broadly. He says, "We have a pool."
I can't believe this is on your list. I actually
there's another
like
scene.
This movie.
No, there's another scene in which a woman is getting the scary, spooky backstory of why these terrible things have begun.
Yeah, that's a silly scene.
Has begun to plague her family. And they delve into the backstory, and it's horrible and it's tragic. But there's a water feature that's in the room with them. And then the water feature starts gurgling and burbling, and they're terrified of this little fountain that's in this woman's house. And oh my God, and the woman grabs her purse and she's like, "Oh my God, I got to get my kids out of the pool." and she gets in her car and she's driving and her purse is on the passenger seat. And she's like, I have got to call my kids to get them out of that pool because the pool is cursed. And she reaches into her purse. And when you know it, the cell phone's been ruined because the purse is full of evil pool water that somehow got into her purse. The pool won't let her call her kids because it wants their souls. I laughed the entire feature length with an audience of other people. Laughed the entire feature length of Night Swim. Russell, what Wyatt Russell is one of the biggest misses.
He's great in that
Hollywood
film.
history. He is a terrible USA agent. He looks ridiculous in that outfit. He is terrible in Night Swim. He was terrible in Overlord. Overlord should be a cult classic that we're all talking about to this day. And he almost single-handedly brought that film down to where it's been forgotten from the cultural zeitgeist. We need to cancel him. Whatever charisma comes out of him and his mother, his father and mother, it was not passed down.
I don't get this. I've seen
none of it. He half-ass looks like his dad, and that's all he's got going for him. And this movie is horrendous. Carrie Condon is wasted in this movie.
Oh,
Night Swim
is
one of where the entire premise of this movie is there's a magic spring that is under these homes, and it'll give you your truest wishes. If you want again, I'm not trying to be stereotypical, but if you want your Asian son to be successful, you better sacrifice your crippled daughter. And or it might be the other way around. You sacrifice your daughter for your crippled son so he gets up out of his wheelchair so he can go on to become a finance bro. That's the evil origin story?
Look, here's the thing about Night Swim.
Asian people made wishes in a natural spring, and it somehow is now cursing the white family. And white families being infected by their immigrant neighbors, and it's killing their kids. Julio will probably like it though. It's a MAGA coded.
I'm putting it on the watch list. It sounds very imaginative.
I've seen this on so many worst of the year lists, and I don't get it, man. I've watched 15 horror movies this year, way worse than Night Swim. The thing about Night Swim is it's not scary. It's not scary at all. And in that sense, it fails as a horror movie. Yeah, it fails as a horror movie. But what it is really is a family drama. And Wyatt Russell carries that movie, man. He is so good in it.
You just said you have no idea why this horror movie is on so many worst of lists. And you're like, now, first things first, it's not scary at all. It's not even remotely the genre it's supposed to be. There's your answer. That's why it's a 1.7 on fucking Letterboxd. God damn, man. When you're saying, oh, it's a family drama about Wyatt Russell being possessed by pool water, and he tries to drown one of the neighborhood kids when he's playing chicken. He gets the kid up on his shoulders, and him and the daughter are playing with another dad or playing chicken in the pool, as you do. But Wyatt Russell is possessed by the pool water, and we know that because he keeps puking up pool water, and he's just holding the kid to where the kid can't get out of the water. He's going to drown, and now nobody wants him coaching their kids' little league team.
I'm not saying it's the best movie of the year, but I genuinely had a decent time watching it. I had fun with it.
You know how we know Wyatt Russell's possessed by pool water? Because he taped over the VHS tape of the birth of his children so he could record himself
playing baseball.
Playing baseball in his garage.
Yeah.
And then the video magically comes back on while he's trying to hunt his kids around like he's Jack Torrance in The Shining. Yeah. Only instead of being possessed by the evil spirits of this malevolent hotel, the Overlook, he's possessed by evil Asian pool water.
7 out of 10.
Yeah. And the only way he can save his family is by sacrificing his life to the pool.
Yeah. Yeah.
He's got to let the pool drain suck his intestines out of his asshole like in Final Destination 5 or whatever.
He was just trying to fuck the pool filter.
He was. Oh, yeah. And then, there's a real spooky scene with the kid.
Where the pool is just like infinitely deep?
The real spooky one is where there's the handicapped girl is in the pool filter.
Oh,
Like,
yeah.
come here. He's like, oh God, and, mommy, there's a woman in the pool filter. She's like, and then she has her son tested for autism. So strange. That's awful, man. It's awful.
Julio, now I want you to watch it because I want you to be on my side because I don't think it's a bad movie.
It's fucking terrible.
Julio's going to end up liking it for its anti-immigrant.
But your endorsement was not particularly enthusiastic, Billy. That's the problem.
It's because he knows it's not good. Dave, you've seen.
One and a half out of 5 on Letterboxd. If I didn't have 5 1-star films, it would have been in my 5. It's an honorable mention.
Shocking. All right, Julio, you're number 3.
Number 3, that's where I'm going to fight with you guys again and the rest of the world. This came out April 30th. Give it 1.5 stars. Speaking of your boy that directed this movie, The Fall Guy.
Oh, shit.
I just don't get it. I know why I should enjoy it. But like, first of all, and this is not why the movie's bad, but I think it's funny that everybody's like, there's a love letter to stunt people. And like, when I went to see it in theaters, there was like a clip where Ryan Gosling and the director, like, talk about like, oh, we love stunt people and whatever. But the movie's not really about the stuntman doing stunts. The movie's about stuntman like being a superhero and just doing all these like crazy things that are not like, I would have loved to see a movie about the stunts, right? And the way that he solves problems is through fake violence instead of real violence. But the movie is about real violence. It's not about stunts. So that felt like a little weird. Now that was me at the end of the movie. Throughout the movie, the main problem is that I just didn't find it funny. And I think that Ryan Gosling, generally, I think his comedy is more like it hits a better ratio with most people than it does with me. Like there are times where I just find them insufferable. Like is it The Nice Guys, The Good Guys? Oh, Russell Crowe. Nice Guys. Like everybody loves that movie. And I'm like, he's just not funny. He's just annoying. And that was the same thing here. Like I don't find him funny. He just plays an idiot. It's Emily Blunt. They have that scene where she is directing him, and God, it goes for like 10 minutes. She keeps making him do the stunt over and over.
The fire?
While she vents her feelings about the breakup. And it's just, when that stuff is not making you laugh, it just goes on forever. And they just keep going and going. It's not good. I think that if you don't know about movies and you're like whatever, but it really annoyed me that he gets there to this new job and they're like, all right, this is something you're gonna do, and then they do it. Like they never do a run through or anything. It's also that it could be a so that Emily Blunt doesn't know that it's him until like the stunt has already been done. Like I get why you're doing it, but it just kept taking me out of the movie. I'm like, that's not how you do it. He's not gonna like just get in the car and do the stunt right away.
Yeah,
it's clearly it's a problem of me like not engaging with the movie on its level, but the fact that nobody even brings it up, it kind of annoys me. And it goes on forever too. Like what is it, like over 2 hours? Like it has to be like 2:15.
It is a long movie. Yeah.
It's like one of those movies that 20 years ago would have been 90 minutes and would have been funny enough, or hour 45 and be like, it was pleasant enough. It just goes on too long.
Yeah. It really. I watched the opening weekend and I was in a packed theater and people were laughing. So it was just one of those where like I knew it was just like a very specific thing for me because everybody else seemed to be having a good time. I don't think that helped it in the end because that one bombed, right? Like that's one of the big.
It's a pretty big bomb. Yeah.
Yeah. So I guess it didn't. That opening weekend didn't really do much for it, but
it was one of those weird things though, where I mean, like you say, like you feel like you're on the opposite side, like. My memory of it is that all the talk about it was really good. And I think it did kind of succeed when it hit streaming. But yeah, it was a big bomb because I think the budget was huge from memory.
But that was one where they're like, if this movie bombed, then what do we do? Like, how did this movie bomb? Because that was the idea, right? Like, you have Emily Blunt, you have Ryan Gosling.
That's an insane idea, though, because it's like your Manimal idea. It is a remake.
idea?
It's a remake of a show that barely anybody remembers from the States from the early 80s.
Yeah, well, I don't think that anybody that went to see
it. The Fall Guy.
Yeah, I'm with
Yeah.
Julio. I don't think people are seeing it based on the show. I think the idea is that
I
you
don't
see it
think
based
so
on the
either.
cast.
Even though they
No,
have that cameo at the end, right?
Action,
That's,
fun, action, romantic, whatever.
It's the kind of movie that in the late 90s would have killed. Late 90s, early 2000, this would have been a huge box office success. You know, like you go back
But
to
Jason's right, it wouldn't be as
99
strong.
and there were 2 comedies in the top 5 box office.
Yeah, but they were an hour and 45 minutes. They weren't
Yeah.
2 hours and 20 minutes
Yeah.
long.
Yeah.
Like, certain genres don't need to be more than 90 to
Agreed,
an
yeah.
hour 45. That's it. That's all you need, man.
Yeah.
You don't
And I
need
think,
more than
I
that.
mean, I didn't hate it. I thought it was perfectly fine. I enjoyed it enough. But with the pedigree of the cast, with David Leitch, I was very, very high on Bullet Train. I think,
That stinks.
Yeah, I'm with Jason on that.
Wow.
Fantastic,
Bullet
fantastic.
Train was
I
a
loved it.
puddle of shit.
That was
Wow.
garbage.
Atomic Blonde is better than all
It
of
was
the
fine.
together. I really
It was
liked him as a
perfectly
filmmaker.
adequate.
But this is his weakest film that he's made to date.
Not when Bullet
The
Train
entire
exists.
the entire length. Yeah, that's true. Not when Bullet Train exists. The entire length of the movie, I just kept thinking about my, how do I want to put this? Sexual desire for Emily Blunt.
Okay, we'll have to beat
was
that
it.
as well.
Go ahead. It'd be funnier if you do bleep it.
Yeah.
No, but Emily Blunt is like, come on now. She's a little bit of all right. Am I alone
Doesn't
here?
it bum you out though?
Am I
when-
alone? Am I alone?
No,
Hey,
she's
oh,
super
okay.
hot and she's super talented. But doesn't
Yeah.
that make it worse when she is not like?
Yeah, but there's a
hitting
scene where, if I remember correctly, I haven't seen it since the theaters, where Ryan Gosling.
Jason just saw her with that giant claw hand, and he was just
I said,
thinking of
pick
a
me
photo
up,
with
pick me up.
her and Kate Blanchett plucking out eyeballs.
That's right. He picks her up and he sits her on a table, I think, or she puts herself on a table, and she's in these jeans, and there's this perfect crease between her thigh and her hip, and you're just like, God damn, that's a woman right there.
Okay,
That
get
that's
the
all I
beep
remember
ready.
from that movie. That's all I remember from the movie. So that's
says
enough.
a lot about the movie. That says a lot about you. And that
It says a
lot
lot
the
about
movie.
me and a lot about how my 2024 went.
All right, Dave, you're
I
number
call,
3.
I called for one of the ushers, and I said, "Young man, get me some napkins."
And a popcorn bucket.
Yeah, I had a popcorn bucket. I spilled some butter. That's what it was.
Me. Oh, musical time again.
Oh, is this going to be a
Mean
crossover?
Girl.
Yep, that's also my
Oh.
number 3.
Excellent.
Oh, okay, that's fair. That's fair.
Yeah.
Honorable
Steaming
mention for me.
third of a film that had no reason for existing. We had a perfectly good Mean Girls already. Why take the exact same script, not change a single
The
fucking
same
word
script.
of it?
It doesn't even try to
Put it-
update anything. It's the same script with bad songs put in it.
I know
But
it's
they have
a
smartphones.
movie of the musical of the movie, but like who fucking cares? It's Mean Girls that didn't need to be. There's a whole bunch of every single song is god awful. Sorry, Gerald Morris, but Renee Rapp is a talentless,
Oh,
absolute turd of an actress. She not attractive. She can't act. She fucking can't. Sings like a foghorn.
yeah.
The only decent things about this film were Aria, what's her name?
Ali Carvalho. Yeah, but she's still not as good as Lizzie Kaplan. Like, she's the best thing
No,
about the
she's
movie,
not.
and she's still not as good as
Andrew
Lizzie
Rice is
Kaplan.
better than Lindsay Lohan. That's about the only improvement.
No, I disagree.
this film
Well,
makes.
no, I know that it's fun to shit on Lindsay Lohan these days, but she's actually, I rewatched Mean Girls
I don't think
recently,
she's
and
bad
she's
in it,
really
but I
good in
think
that
Andrew
movie.
Rice was perfectly good in this, but everything else about this film is fucking god awful.
Yeah.
Absolutely terrible. I was hating my life watching this.
Yeah,
Every
Same.
second of it, I wanted to claw my skin off.
yeah, agreed. It's just such a bad movie, such a misstep. Just like you say, no need to exist. I know that it was already turned into a musical on Broadway and stuff, and that's fine. Leave it there. You don't need to make it into a movie, especially like we're so close to we're literally 20 years after the original.
It's
I know
not
that
like
sounds
they're
like a long
remaking
time,
from the
but Tina Fey is
1950s.
playing the same role. That's how close to the
And
original
it's-
film we are.
It's not even consistent. She's playing the same role. Tim Meadows is playing the same role. He's
Yeah.
even still got the cast on his arm.
Yeah.
but and they refer to the events of the first film, but it's a remake because you've got the same named characters with different cast.
Yeah.
You can't have it both ways. You can't remake something and then refer back to the film you're remaking as if it happened the year before.
Yeah.
Or maybe it's a comment on the cyclical nature of childhood school trauma. There's always going to be a Katie. There's always going to be
circular nature of Mean Girls the musical going down the toilet as it flushes.
Yeah, just a bad. The songs are so bad. Like, I don't like musicals at the best of times, but my God, there's not a half decent song in this film. It's just
That's the problem.
Yeah, that is the problem. Like, if the songs were good, at least that would give you some reason to remake it.
It's the only thing that it's adding to the first
that's
film,
right. It's the
other
only
than
addition. Yeah.
making every character slightly less well performed and
yeah,
like Amanda Seyfried, Lacey Chabert. These are people that know how to do comedy and have comic timing, and you just replace them with generic shit actresses who probably came off the Disney Channel.
Yeah.
And when the only thing you're adding are the songs, and the songs are fucking awful, how did anyone think this was going to go well?
Yeah.
Ugh.
All right. Well, moving right past me, because like I said, that's also my number 3. So we're in the top half now, Jason. Over to you for your number 2.
It's my last one because I already gave you my
yeah,
number
of course.
1.
Yeah.
So my final one is a movie that everybody said was bad. I knew it was going to be bad. So I went in with the lowest of expectations. I watched it on streaming. I did not go to the theater to see it. And I watched it on streaming, and it was as bad or worse than the public had led me on to believe. And of course, I'm talking about Madam Web. At one point, this woman says, "You guys stay right here. I'll be right back." And she goes to the fucking Amazon, the deep jungle of the Amazon. This guy's right around the corner. He's going to kill all you girls.
Died while she was hunting the spiders.
I've seen it in a premonition. So you stay right here in the woods while I go figure out what's happening. And she goes to the Amazon
for child abduction, and she somehow gets on a plane.
Yes. She goes to the Amazon where she meets not a Spider-Man, spider people who live in the trees. Because Spider-Man's powers now, their origin is Aboriginal people, and this is how they live their life. It's their religion. And then she's like, the magic white woman who took the indigenous culture and made it worth something. Like, oh, you're the one that was prophesied. That's like, your dying mother trusted the wrong guy who stole our spider people abilities, and all of his lines are ADR'd. You can tell because his mouth doesn't move when he talks. And we're going to push you into this magic water, and you're going to kind of die, but also be reborn. And then you're magically going to reappear. And then, it's just oh my God. She's an EMT. Her partner is Ben Parker.
Yeah.
And they go to Spider-Man's baby shower. And they're guessing baby food out of diapers, and she's making an ass out of herself. This is one of the most insanely scripted, directed, bad movies I have seen in some time. We are now in an era where these people in Hollywood, Sony in particular, they can't make movies. They don't know how. I don't know who works at that film company. They have not made a functional film in 10 years. And I'm not like, they cannot do it. Every movie they produce is at the level of Battlefield Earth or worse. And the general intelligence of the movie-going public has diminished to such an extent that people will absorb this slop into their system and say, no offense, Billy, it's not half bad.
I mean, I don't think that's true. I think this movie got shat on from great heights. I think I'm the only person in the world who enjoyed this movie. I saw it twice at the cinemas, Jason. I think this movie is better than half of the MCU. I'm not saying this is this is a fantastic movie. It's a 6 out of 10. Like, it's barely above average, but it is better than half of the MCU. And
why is it better? I don't understand. when even the level of filmmaking is subpar. It's not even
shoddy, Billy. You know what good editing is. This isn't it.
Some of the editing is atrocious. Some of the camera work is atrocious. The ADR is really bad.
The first time those spider people appear, in the trees with her mom, and it looks like it was shot on a Sony Handycam.
Are you genuinely telling me that you think this is worse than most other comic book movies?
Yes.
That's insane to me.
Made this century? Yes.
That's insane to me. That's absolutely insane to me. I don't think this is a great movie. I think I had fun with it, partly because it's not good, and I really like Dakota Johnson.
When she shows up at the end in that wheelchair with those glasses on, you didn't laugh your fucking ass off.
Of course I did. Of course I did.
Webb reveal.
But at least I was having fun doing it, which is more than I can say for Thor: Love and Thunder or Guardians of the Galaxy 2 or
movie.
Yes, that's what I'm saying. Half of the
movie.
MCU is at least 2 stars worse than this movie. And this movie got shat on purely because it's Sony.
No.
But Dakota Johnson has fucking charisma. She has charisma and she is fun to watch.
She's the antithesis of charisma. She's negative Riz.
No, she is fun to watch.
She's barely alive as a human being. There's nothing.
You have to read between the lines, Jason. What Emily Blunt is to you in The Fall Guy, that was Dakota Johnson.
And he hasn't even got to Sydney Sweeney yet.
Oh my God. Sydney Sweeney is a 30-year-old woman with triple E's playing a 12-year-old girl.
Yeah, it's fantastic.
I'm supposed to believe that she's a schoolgirl, a naive schoolgirl who dresses like a schoolgirl and doesn't even know where she is. I'm supposed to watch her shake her tits on a table at a diner that they found in the middle of the fucking woods.
Here's my thing with this movie. It's not a good movie, and I'm not saying it's a good movie. But I'm saying that most people shat on it from such a great height purely based on the trailer. And this is, honestly, it's about on par with 90% of the comic book movies that we see these days. This is better than anything that DC have ever put out. It's better than half of the MCU.
And some of the others.
Huh?
I had fun with it. I don't think it's anywhere near as good as you do, but I enjoyed it because of the people in it. It's got Dora in it. I'll watch her in anything. She's great. But it's better than Shang-Chi. It's certainly better than Doctor Strange and the Multiverse.
100%. It's a million times better than Doctor Strange.
And No Way Home.
Not a chance.
Yeah.
And here's the thing. I'm not an MCU defender at all. And I went into this movie with I knew this was going to be bad. So I went into it thinking, I'm probably going to end up rating it a little bit higher because, once something's been carpet bombed with bad reviews, you watch and you go, well, it's not all that bad. I give it half a star.
Yeah.
I couldn't believe it. I knew the memes. I knew my mother was researching spiders before she died in the Amazon or whatever. I knew all of the shit from the trailer. So I knew
Dakota Johnson is a queen. Did you see the interview where she got asked about that line and she was just so fucking... She just deadpan looked at them and went, "What's funny about that?" And the journalist was so embarrassed they didn't know how to respond. They were like, it's just a lot of exposition. And she was like, "What's wrong with exposition?" It was so fucking great. She is a queen.
Just because she knows the movie is shit.
Yeah.
And just because she knows that she's shit in the movie.
She's not.
Doesn't excuse the fact that the movie is still shit.
She's got more charisma in her little pinky than half of the other actresses working today.
Not Emily Blunt, brother. Not Emily Blunt.
I'm not a huge Blunt head. I'm not here for
I am a Blunt head. I would take blunt force trauma. just to smell the air as she walks by on the red carpet. If I could just get a whiff of her perfume as she walks by me on the red carpet with that asshole she's married to, I would die.
I mean, speaking of bad movies, he made a real stinker this year, which was very close to my list, but didn't make it.
Well, he sucks. He's a thief. So less we talk about him, the better. He stole A Quiet Place from the guys who actually wrote it and turned it into a franchise. And then
he stole Emily Blunt from.
He stole Emily Blunt from me. Goddamn it! I had a chance.
All right, Julio, you're number 2.
All right, my number 2 is where I probably go obscure. This is the one where you guys might not have seen it. This was from Richard Lagravines. I think that's how you pronounce his name. Wrote The Fisher King. He wrote and directed, is it called The Last 5 Years? It's like a musical adaptation with Anna Kendrick. He's kind of like he's a good filmmaker / writer for the most part. And then he made this direct-to-Netflix movie called A Family Affair with Nicole Kidman,
Oh, I've heard of
And-
this one.
Zac Efron, Joey King.
Yeah. I have not seen it, but I have heard about
Yeah,
it.
She
you
fucks
love
Zac
getting
Efron,
Nicole
right?
Kidman.
She fucks Zac Efron.
Yeah,
Nicole Kidman.
I wouldn't have watched it. I didn't even know that he had a movie out, but my wife wanted to watch something, and she's like, "Oh, there's this new romantic comedy on Netflix." So we just fired it up, and it's really fucking dumb. I gave it 1 star. I had to refresh my memory as far as like what the actual pitch is. The only thing worse than being the assistant to a high maintenance movie star who doesn't take you seriously, finding out he's smitten with your mom. So Joey King is Zac
Right.
Efron's assistant. He's like a big name Hollywood actor
Yeah.
and treats her like shit. She quits. He goes to apologize, so she will come back to work for him, and in the process meets her mom, who is Nicole Kidman, and they start having an affair, and then the rest of the movie happens. And it's not funny, and it's just kind of
Is it supposed to be a comedy?
sad. It's supposed to be a comedy. It's like a
Okay.
romantic comedy.
Yeah.
It's like the romance between Nicole Kidman and Zac Efron. First, they're trying to keep it hidden. Then eventually Joey King finds out. And now she has to, she gets promoted. So she can't quit. Now she has to keep working with Zac Efron because they're like in the big movie
Yeah.
that he's in. So now she's stuck in this position, and she tells him, "Okay, well, I'm gonna keep working with you, but you have to stop dating my mom." And it's not good. It's
It
bad.
sounds
It's
like
sad,
that spoof movie from that episode of The Office where Jack Black falls in love with Cloris Leachman.
What?
You haven't seen that? Oh, man.
I can believe someone falling in love with Cloris Leachman over Nicole Kidman.
Why do you hate
that's
your
been
compatriot?
that's been like the whole advertising of this movie. It's just about, Nicole Kidman and Zac Efron. I saw her come out in an article. I think I saw the headline yesterday where she was like, "Oh, they had to keep pausing filming the sex scenes because I was having real orgasms." And I'm like, "What do you stop that? Don't say that."
I think she finds out because she finds them having sex. Like she walks in on them having sex. That's haha. It's one of those things that happen. It's just not good. Like they don't have chemistry, Zac Efron and Nicole Kidman.
She doesn't
They're
have
obviously
chemistry.
attractive
Doesn't
people,
she?
but
Doesn't she have another movie out as we record this where she fucks a guy much younger than her and he dominates her?
Maybe
Yeah.
maybe that's the one I saw the headline about. Yeah.
That might be it. Yeah.
that
Oh, she's
one
got
just
a
from the
niche.
trailer seems like it has a little more of an edge. This is
Yeah.
not it.
She's
This is-
she's entered her weird stepmom era. If you know,
Yes.
obviously Julio laughed first, so he knows exactly what I'm talking about.
I'm in. I just wish the movie was better.
Hey,
Sean-
Julio, do they still let you frequent those kind of sites in your state, or have they need a VPN now?
It's still maybe it's because I'm with Google. I don't know. Maybe if you're with Spectrum, they cut you off already. They're
see.
moving slowly, but
Yeah. I don't know if you guys know this, but speaking of Civil War, certain states in the United States are blocking porn sites.
Yeah, no, that's
all
made the
porn
news out here.
sites?
Yeah.
I think Pornhub's the one that's been in the news, but I don't know how they're doing it.
Let me just tell you, Julio fell to his knees and tears. He's like, "How I live."
Why he left Peru to come to the States was to get access to all this wonderful internet content.
Look, VPNs exist. So when there's a will, there's a way.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah. At least, well, here's the thing. Even if they take it away from us, Nicole Kidman is now filling that niche for us. There's at least 2 movies where we can, desperate times.
All right.
Yeah, don't watch A Family Affair, no matter how high Netflix puts it on its rankings. That was the thing. I think it was like the #1 watch movie that weekend or whatever. So I was like, all right, let's give it a shot. No.
Yeah.
that's-
My Netflix knows not to present me with anything with Nicole Kidman in it, unless it's a Robert Eggers film.
All right. Speaking of Robert Eggers.
Oh, that's a third one. That's a third one. And that's not a stepmom. That's his mom.
Yeah.
There's
Yeah.
a third one for you.
Yeah.
Jesus. She's definitely got a type of role now.
All right, Dave, you're number 2.
Yeah, my number 2 and number 1 are 2 directors that should just be banned from making things ever again. I'm going with my only streaming film, which is Rebel Moon Part 2, The Scargiver. Fuck Zack Snyder.
I didn't waste my time with it. I haven't seen
Oh,
either of the Rebel Moons.
It's just And there are people out there saying, "Oh no, you need to watch the director's cut." I'm not watching it the next fucking hour. Jesus Christ, I got sucked into that fucking 4.5 hour bloody Snyder cut once before. I'm never doing it again. Both of these films are offensively derivative and bad. They're unoriginal. There's not a single original beat in the writing. He's a terrible writer. The dialogue's fucking awful. The cast are generally fine, but they look, considering the fact that they're close to $100 million each, they look like they're shot on a green screen at a school play. Fucking terrible. And the second one was even worse than the first. Just awful. If you haven't watched them, don't. They made me angry. Over 2 hours long this was, and it's there's not even enough content for a short film. It looks shit. The story is awful. If you took the slow-mo out of this, it'd be 45 minutes long. Everything is slow. There's slow-mo of people planting fucking wheat, for Christ's sake. I fucking hated this movie.
So Dave, so you watched part one. You didn't like it, but then you still went back for part two. Were you expecting it to get better?
You should know by now. If someone tells me that something is the worst film ever, and Jason knows this because I've watched every single thing off his 5 worst films from a year ago when we did this. I've seen all of them now. I perversely can't not do it. And I hated the first one so much. And I knew in 5 months when they drop part 2, I'm going to watch it. I'm going to watch it. I'm going to hate it. I'm going to watch it. I'm going to watch it. I was like Cameron in Ferris Bueller. He's going to call. He's going to make another movie and I'm going to watch it. And I did. And it was awful. And I hated my time. And I will probably watch the director's cuts at some point. They're worse or just longer.
Oh, man. All right. My number 2 is a Sony comic book movie that is much, much worse than Madam Web. It's Kraven the Hunter, which was just absolute trash.
You spent 20 minutes defending Madam Web, and now you're going to spend 20 minutes trashing Kraven the Hunter when they're basically the same thing?
They're not. Madam Web was fun. Madam Web knew what it was. Kraven the Hunter was trying.
No, it didn't. It did not.
Did.
No.
Kraven the Hunter was just bad. Aaron Taylor Johnson has zero charisma.
A lot of muscles.
The cinematography is atrocious. The CGI is way worse than anything in Madam Web. Just not an enjoyable time. I just had no fun with it at all. Just why am I sitting here watching this? It was just bad. Just really bad.
You didn't like Russell Crowe's Russian accent?
No, I don't like Russell Crowe in much.
I think I said in our review, it's rivaling John Malkovich in Rounders.
All right, well that brings us to number 1. So Jason, you've already anything else you want to say about Space Cadet?
No.
All right, Julio.
If Space Cadet starred Emily Blunt, would you enjoy it more?
I think we all know the answer.
He would have enjoyed it in his own private time.
That's right. Yeah.
Julio, you're number 1.
My number 1, I'm going to be... Well, maybe I shouldn't be surprised if nobody else has it, but this is like a big story, and I guess it's kind of divisive, but another September movie, 1 star, Francis Ford Coppola's Megalopolis.
I haven't seen it. I've heard nothing but bad things, so I just stayed away.
It's not, as you're watching it, you kind of get the feeling that maybe something's going over your head, and that's the only explanation as to why it's just not working at all. And that could be the case. Maybe it's just that Coppola and I are in completely different wavelengths, like as far as just life, the universe, everything, right? But he is like, he's swinging. Whenever it's come up, that's what I say. I was like, look, an old dude, this is probably his last movie, and he's going out doing something that he definitely believes in, and he's not making a superhero movie. He's not adapting someone else's IP. This is his thing. It's his passion project, and he just went all out. But I don't think it works. It's like the narrative is choppy. The characters are like nails on chalkboard. It goes on forever, and I think it's confusing as hell to watch. Like there's and there is not, when you're done with it, at least in my case, there wasn't a desire to go back. I'm like, all right, well, I don't know what's going on, but I enjoyed my time. The filmmaking was compelling enough that I'll go and watch it again so I can start, picking at it and engaging with the ideas from a different angle. Maybe. No, it was boring. I was never connected to anything that was happening. So when it was over, I was like, man, that's a shame. That's his last movie. He's made some great movies.
Yeah.
And this is the parting gift. It was a bummer. And I've even stayed away from the discourse because I've seen some people giving it like 5 stars and just going like, oh, well,
right.
There's a lot of people that haven't watched enough movies. It's, like the argument of like, oh, well, you didn't get it because you need to watch more cinema. That makes me even engage with it less.
Yeah. Did you see it at the cinemas, Julio?
Yeah.
Did you have the live segment?
I did not. It didn't make it. Maybe I wonder if I would have gotten it if I'd gone like the first week. But there was a friend that wanted to watch it, so we're trying to like match time. So by the time we watched it, it was only playing at 10 p.m. in one theater. So we were able to catch it there, but no live anything. It was just us and like maybe 10 other confused people.
Does it hit this done cinemas here, Billy?
It did come to cinemas here. And I know that at least my local cinema did the whole live thing for at least a few screenings. But I just heard nothing but bad things, so I just didn't bother because, especially since it's so long.
I was interested to. I mean, it's not like Coppola's made a good film for it's a long time, so I wasn't expecting it to be good. And everyone was saying this is just the train came off the tracks and plummeted into a ravine. It's what a shame, et cetera, et cetera. But a little part of me was thinking, well, maybe this will be another, Southland Tales, another Cloud Atlas, where heaps of people think it's a, horrible pile of shit, but somehow, I'm in the right mindset, under the Silver Lake. I get it. It's
Right.
Sometimes I like that sort of thing, but everything I hear about this is that it's just a horrendous train wreck of a film.
Yeah, I would watch Southland Tales over this. And I'm not big on Southland Tales, but that at least has like some
another 4 out of 5 film.
There's a sex scene between Shia LaBeouf and Aubrey Plaza that is just perplexing. It just, when it comes to the movie, how it's played, because it's played for laughs, but it just goes on forever. And I just know, it just felt like it was not made by the same guy that made other movies that I've,
The Godfather.
Even if I didn't like them, I respected them.
Yeah.
It just felt like, did he just, what it was like? It was like when I watched Aloha, and I'm like, this is from Cameron Crowe? Like, it doesn't, the pieces are not there. It's just.
Yeah.
Shia LaBeouf should be banned from doing sex scenes ever since Nymphomaniac.
All right, you're number one.
I don't need to see him thrusting ever again. Number one, oh yeah, no surprise. A little movie we saw called Trap, which no doubt we'll be talking about when we get closer to the end of Shyamalanigans. Fuck me. Why is this? I mean, other than the fact he pays for them himself and they make him money, why is this guy making movies? He is a fucking talentless hack.
See, my biggest problem with Trap is kind of similar to what we were saying about Tarot. I feel like it's a bit of a squandered premise. And the first half hour of the film,
his daughter's music career a boost. That was the reason he made the movie.
The first half hour of the film, I don't hate. It takes some turns late on where it really gets silly, and it's just
the whole premise.
The moves the characters are making are just completely unrealistic. But yeah, I had enough fun with it that it's out of my worst list.
I tell you what, when the entire purpose of it is to try and give a leg up to your daughter's music career, and Naomi Scott is a more convincing pop star in Smile 2 than your actual pop star daughter is in Trap, fucking maybe she should hang up her spurs as well, because she's not good at her job either. The whole fucking family should just go and run a bookstore or something. What was his daughter's one that he basically
the watches?
Held her hand?
That was in my honorable mentions. That was pretty bad.
It'll be coming up.
Yeah, that was not a good movie. I didn't
yeah.
hate Trap. Did you guys see
I
Trap?
felt so bad because I thought, oh, Hartnett's back. I love Hartnett. And he did his best, but fucking hell, every single line of dialogue was terrible. Poor old Hayley Mills, who deserves more at this point in her career than to be shoehorned into an almost non-speaking FBI agent role in this piece of shit.
There's got to be a movie we could put poor old Hayley Mills in where she fucks Zac Efron.
I'd buy that more than Nicole Kidman.
Well, I can't believe that my number one didn't make anyone else's list, because this is far and away the worst movie I saw this year. One of the worst movies I've seen in several years. It's The Crow.
It's going to be. Yes.
The Crow was just abysmal. It's so bad. Everything about it is bad. I don't understand the Bill Skarsgård thing. He has not been good in a single fucking role, and he is so bad in this.
Wait a minute.
He is so bad in this movie. Everything about this movie is bad. It ruins. Like, I love The Crow. It's a love story, and this is not a love story at all. This is two people who spend half an hour doing drugs together with zero chemistry.
Eric Draven's not in this movie for the first fucking 40 minutes or something. We're just following her around.
Which I didn't.
Deny.
It's just there's nothing redeeming about this movie at all. It is such a waste of space. It's so bad. I
haven't logged it on Letterboxd, or I would have remembered, and it would have been in my 5.
Oh.
I forgot about it.
God.
I thought this was going to be a 10, so it is on my list, but it didn't make the top 5, so I fucked up.
All right. Well, why don't you give us some honorable mentions, Jason?
I'll blow through these real quick since we're already at 4.5 hours here. Watchers would be my number 10.
Yep.
I thought it was a good, interesting, weird, like Twilight Zone kind of premise, which the Shyamalans are famous for. I didn't really dislike the movie, even after they kind of started to reveal what the creatures were. But then the third act hits.
Yeah.
And then it all went to shit. And that's kind of par for the course here. I think she might have a future in directing, but I think she's going to need somebody else to write the scripts.
Yeah.
Would be
this would have been a much better film if her father had stayed well the fuck away. But apparently he was on set every single day. So as far as I'm concerned, it's just another Shyamalan film.
Well, I didn't know that part of it. So I don't know. Maybe the direction credits are more to do. I thought it was a fairly well directed movie. I thought it was just.
I was looking forward to it. The first trailer didn't mention her surname.
Yeah,
it was just a teaser trailer. And I remember saying to Billy, there's a new horror movie coming up. Looks really, really creepy, and it's got Fanning, who we like, in it.
Yeah.
The second trailer was like, Ishana Shyamalan directs a film presented by M. Night Shyamalan. I was like, oh, Jesus Christ, that's too many Shyamalans.
Yeah, that's right. So that's my number 10. My number 9 is Ghostbusters Frozen Empire, a movie that's such a giant fucking mess of a film. It just goes to everything I said about Madam Web and Sony Pictures. They just throw digital slop onto a screen and expect you to accept it. And there's a movie so bad I actually rewrote it. I spent most of the summer to Julio's I don't know, consternation.
Don't tease me with a Manimal Legacy sequel and then I'm working on.
There's a semi-complete first draft rewrite of that movie. See on Patreon. And there's several drafts. I went through the entire process, but there's a finished story draft. It's not actually a full first draft. I mean, there's dialogue, everything. It's a beginning, middle, and end, but it didn't have massive revisions. So if you really want to read some bad fan fiction, go ahead and read it. I've actually also submitted it to 2 film critics. The one is already out now. Brian Scuttle review, goes through the script page by page, critiques it, says what works, what doesn't work, where the finished product is superior, where my version was superior, what I got right, what they got wrong. And there's another one from a real mean film critic, and it isn't Dave. It's another Dave, and he's even meaner. That's going to be coming out soon. And then number 8 for me would be Sasquatch Sunset. If you want to see a bunch of...
I heard good things, I think.
No, it's a 15-minute short film that extends itself for nearly 2 hours. If you want to see Jesse Eisenberg have diarrhea in a Sasquatch costume for 10 uninterrupted minutes
actually.
of 10 uninterrupted minutes, this is the movie for you. It is on your watch list, Billy. It's on here, by the way. I'm looking at it. Or is that you, Dave? No, it's you, Dave. It's on your watch list.
I didn't expect to like it. It sounded awful.
Horrendous.
But so many people had it on their best of the year list. I was like, I'm going to check it out.
No. Here's the thing. I appreciate the audacity of doing it. I love taking big swings. I like that it exists. So I'm not opposed to it in theory. In practice, it's a short film that just goes on way too long.
Yeah.
My number 7 would be The Crow.
Yeah.
It gets absolutely everything wrong about that character.
Yeah.
Yep.
And the relationship between him and what's his love interest name? My God.
The movie doesn't care either. So
yeah. And also, like, FKA Twigs is terrible.
Oh my God, she's so bad.
The worst performances I've seen the entire year. He's actually, I like Bill Skarsgård's stuff. He's terrible in this too.
He's so bad in it.
Absolutely horrible. Danny Houston doesn't even know what movie he's in.
Yeah.
It's badly written, badly directed.
Apparently, in this Crow, it's all about selling your soul to demons and things. The entire premise of the character.
That's correct. That's correct. It should have given us pause when the director of Snow White and the Huntsman and Ghost in the Shell was directing the Crow remake.
Yeah.
Rupert Sanders, just, oh my God. I think he's doing the Halo movie, maybe. Is that true? Is he doing Halo or something?
I don't know.
Or Mass Effect, or he's got some other big property.
Duncan Jones was attached to a Halo movie at some point, but that was about 15 years ago or something.
This is where Julio's probably going to disagree with me. My last honorable mention is Godzilla Kong: The New Empire.
Didn't watch it.
That was bad.
I thought this was... maybe it was just COVID. I liked the first one enough as a waste of time to watch.
Yeah.
It could have been quarantine brain or something. So I fired this up. This is obnoxious. It's ugly.
Yeah.
It's insane. It's... our guy from The Guest, he's another one of those guys, Dan Stevens, he's a guy that most people want to have sex with, plays a King Kong dentist. Yeah. He's a kaiju dentist. How do you get a degree in that?
More at the point, how do you have prosthetics for kaiju when you've never actually done it before? Kong's the only one that he's got stuff, but he's never done it before. So
correct. That's what I'm saying.
It's a job that he has that he's never actually done, and he has things pre-prepared for a specific scenario that has never happened before. And that is just one of the very small, tiny things wrong with that fucking awful movie.
And I don't remember very much about it, except for the fact that the first movie is all about, like, well, actually, the Earth is hollow, and there's another dimension that's inside the Earth, and you have to. And then King Kong is like running up and down the center of the Earth, appearing and disappearing on one side of the planet and going to another dimension. The upside
I did the maths on that, by the way. It'd take him about 8 to 9 days going non-stop at full pelt to go up that fucking tunnel, and he does it in about 5 minutes.
5 minutes, yeah. That's the first movie. So, like, okay, that's pretty wacky enough. Then very quickly into this movie, I don't even remember what they do. Oh, yeah, now I do. It turns out that the core of the Earth, which is the hollow Earth, that the core of the Earth is also hollow, and there's another world inside the core of the Earth. So it's not enough that we have to go into the core of the Earth. It turns out there's a core within the core that's also hollow, and there's other apes that live in there, and there's other Godzillas that live down there. And now our Godzilla has to fight the apes from inside the core of his world. It's just insane.
The
only literally double down.
Hilarity in this was when Godzilla picks up small Diddy Kong and starts using him as a weapon to fight other apes. That was the only moment when I thought, oh, if the whole movie was like this would be 5 out of 5.
And the thing is, everybody refers to that scene and everybody says Diddy Kong. That's not even from this movie. That's a different character. Yeah, that's from the Donkey Kong Country games. But yeah, there's this little that they found some person. I don't know. Maybe it was Danny Houston for all I know, or Bill Skarsgård. And they did mocap for a little child-sized Kong, whose only purpose of the movie is to be a giant piece of shit that King Kong tries to help, but he keeps screwing King Kong over because he's working for the bad guys. So King Kong has no choice but to pick him up like a baseball bat and begin beating the shit out of other apes with a child. And you're like, this is the best part of the movie. It's insane. Yeah.
That's
Once they get
another
to the core, the hollow center of the earth, they're like, there's actually a deep, dark secret underneath this hollow center.
Oh, that's so
there's a world of crystal. There's a hidden species that lives there. They completely forget. They completely blow away the premise of the last movie. They're like, the real secret is this new thing where there's these magic crystals, and there's these again
and
magic indigenous people. They're the Aztecs. The Aztecs didn't die. They actually live in the center of the hollow earth in this crystal city, and they control the kaijus for magic crystals. You're like, what the fuck is this? And Godzilla's got to eat some of the crystals or whatever the shit. And you're like, oh my God.
Is that historically accurate, Julio? Incas and Aztecs actually came from the center of the earth?
It's one of the many theories.
Scratching your head going, oh, they
can't be disproven.
There's
Can't be proven.
Yeah.
It's kind of like up in the air.
What's the relationship between the Incas and we know they love crystal skulls. So can you explain more of that to us?
A little before my time, sadly.
Yeah.
And it's been stricken from the curriculum. So you don't
I
even,
say too woke. Too
woke.
Let me ask you this, Julio.
Did they stick to the Diddy Kong image from the video games? Did he have the MAGA hat?
Julio can only support it if Diddy Kong is MAGA.
I need to know where his allegiances lie.
You can't explain to us the crystals. Can you explain to us why so many soups?
Because they're delicious. That's why.
It's so hot. But there's so many
Crystal soup?
so many soups.
Well, you can have cold soup.
I think most of
Gazpacho.
Well, yeah, that's true. But that's from the colonizers. I'm talking about the real stuff. The indigenous people. All the soups are hot,
Yeah,
as far as I
ketchup in
know.
a bowl and call it soup.
Yeah.
It gets cold.
I guess. I guess
In
the idea is
mountains, it gets cold.
you that's true. You eat hot soup to cool you down. You sweat. So that's some of the idea, right?
And you just all the toxins come out.
Yeah, that's right. Oh, you gotta get all those poisons out of you. Yeah. Okay, that's it. I'm done.
Julio, do you have any honorable mentions?
Yeah, real quick. You guys already said Mean Girls the musical. Give it 2 stars. Monkey Man. Big
I was
disappointment,
disappointed in
2.5
Monkey Man.
stars.
Yep.
I really wanted to, the narrative going in was that Dev Patel had really gone. I mean, I guess he did, right? He put it all out there, but I think that I was rooting for him, and it made me wish the movie was more cohesive. It just felt like the handheld was just too much. And I saw it in theaters, which I don't know if that makes it worse or better when it comes to that approach. But
worse, I think, because you got less peripheral vision, so you get more nausea.
Yeah, I guess I didn't get nauseous, but I just got tired of it really quick. Twisters. I have friends that loved it.
Yep.
They think that it's a huge, a very entertaining romp. I gave it 2 stars. I don't really care.
Yeah.
I think what's his name is very charismatic. What's
the guy
guy
with
from
the shit-eating grin?
It's the
Fucking
surname.
hate
Yeah.
Glenn Powell.
It's all in the
Glenn
surname.
Powell?
Yeah, overrated.
Did you like him in the Linklater
Hang on,
movie
you-
earlier this year? What was it?
Hitman? I didn't see that.
Hitman. Yeah,
I
I think it's great in Hitman.
Great. I loved Hitman.
Yeah, Hitman is great. Salem's Lot, 2 stars. I think
What a
whether
mess.
you've read the book or not, it's not. You can still tell that this was kind of half baked. Speaking of another like legacy actor, that's Bill Pullman's kid, right? Playing the writer, playing Ben Mears.
Oh,
It's something Pullman. So the Pullman kid. I think he's, he does what he can, but it's not great. And then Gladiator 2, 2.5 stars. I don't care for the first Gladiator. This one was a little more entertaining, but in the end, it's like kind of like with the Coppola thing. It was like, how many more does Ridley Scott have in him? And for him to kind of
good
waste time
films?
with this.
None. It's been, apart from The Martian, it's been about a quarter of a century since a genuinely great Ridley Scott film.
Correct.
Well, I know who was asking for Gladiator 2, especially when it's I mean, Denzel
arrogant.
Washington is fun. But
Someone else was going to make it, and like with the Alien franchise, he thinks he is so much better and the only one capable of doing anything with IP he was connected with early in his career, that he kind of insists on being the guy to do it. And you know,
do you know that he came out and said that they filmed the movie in 51 days without a script.
I believe it.
They had a loose idea what the story was going to be, and then he left it to the actors to basically improv their scenes. He said he wanted to treat it like live theater and record it that way.
I mean, live theater is still fucking scripted most of the time.
That's what he said. That's what he said.
On behalf of Shakespeare, hey.
So I think what people are responding to is like, because people are like, oh well, a lot of the main character, whose movie it was supposed to be, doesn't really have much to do, and it's
Paul Mescal doesn't have a whole amount of charisma, so that didn't help.
Yeah, and why does Denzel? Because Denzel's done a shit ton of Shakespeare, and was like, "Fuck, he's one of the greatest actors."
I'm gonna camp the shit out of this and really.
Yeah, so I'm just gonna go. If it's up to me, I'm just gonna. Denzel's entire career has been making, chicken salad and chicken shit. So I think he walked away unscathed from the movie and stole it by everybody who's just seen it. And everybody else was left in the dust because there was no ideas. There's literally no idea other than, somebody, they were going to make Gladiator 2 without him. And so he said, well, I've got an option, so I'm going to be the one to do it.
Yeah.
That's it.
Dave, any honorables from you?
I'll stick to things that were 1.5 or lower on Letterboxd. Craven, you mentioned Never Let Go, Halle Berry horror movie that was neither scary nor engrossing, and she acted well, but she also produced it, so I still blame her. And I've got sucked into watching this YA thing called The Uglies, which is a kind of Allegiant Hunger Gamesy type. It's fucking awful with Joey King. Speaking of MAGA, you'll like this, Julio. Harold and the Purple Crayon with Zachary Levi.
Oh yeah.
Fuck me,
MAGA mouthpiece.
Piece of shit
Zachary
film.
Levi.
And frustrating.
Julio was finally glad that somebody had the guts in Hollywood to stand up for what he believes in.
I went and watched that Shazam sequel 5 times to try to boost the numbers.
That's right. Yeah.
It should have been really moving. There's the kind of existential crisis to their characters in a book who come to life, and are they real? Are they not? They seek out their creator who wrote them. All of that could have been this really interesting film, and instead it's just fucking scribble noughts the movie. It's like, I'm going to draw a thing and it comes to life, and it's funny because I'm Shazam.
Does he draw vaccines at some point, or did they not go there?
Did you what?
Does he draw vaccines?
Jesus.
We'll have to beep that as well.
Julio can't even see a vaccine on screen. He gets offended. He's like, you're pushing your agenda.
He's uninstalled Norton off his computer. The last two that I'll mention, which I can't believe none of us mentioned these, Argyle.
Yeah,
which
that's
was
just
a train wreck, and Roadhouse.
Didn't waste my time with Roadhouse.
Jesus Christ, what happened?
Oh, that should have made my list. That was horrible.
Just Jake Gyllenhaal's okay.
It was not good. But it was better than the original.
Oh yeah, but Connor, whatever the fuck his name is, the MMA.
Conor McGregor,
every second he was on screen, was just excruciating.
Yeah.
Oh, just awful.
With the mention of Argyle, that's now all of my honourable mentions have already been said, so I won't bother. So, and we have been recording for about 7 hours. So, thank you guys so much for joining us for this epic episode.
Rebel Moon Stargiver almost.
Well, maybe in the edit we should just slow-mo the podcast at various points. Oh my god! Slow-mo when I'm giving my TED talk.
Wheat in slow motion.
Thank you guys so much for joining us. This has been a lot of fun to chat with you guys. I mean, if people aren't already listening to either the Contrarians or Binge Movies, they're absolutely insane because they're wonderful podcasts. Julio, why don't you go first? Why don't you tell us where people can find the Contrarians and what you guys do?
If you must use Twitter/X, it's Contrarian Prime, but I would prefer you use Threads or Blue Sky, also at Contrarian Prime. And yeah, just look for the Contrarians. WeAreTheContrarians.com is a website. You can just find the links there.
They rage against the Rotten Tomatoes machine.
Yes.
Yes, I do what I did here with Civil War and
Yeah.
Fall Guy. We do it for all the movies.
And Jason, why don't you tell everybody about Binge?
Let me tell you, Julio's such a contrarian that after I made such a big deal about him being a troll and a monster, he was the nicest he's ever been in this podcast. So that even then, he was a contrarian. Every time you think you know the answers, Julio changes the question. He is always one step ahead. It's insane. It's insane. Binge Movies. The podcast is available where all good and bad podcasts can be found. All of your favorite platforms that still exist. You can find us on Letterboxd at Binge Movies. You can find us on Instagram at Binge Movies Lives. You can find us on Blue Sky at Binge Movies and patreon.com/Binge Movies.
Perfect. Thank you guys so much for joining us. This has been so much fun.
Yep.
Next week, we'll have 2 episodes. We're going to have a bonus episode dropping with our thoughts on Nosferatu and also Anora, which I got to this week. I don't know if you're going to have time for that, Dave, but if not, I'll do a little mini review.
I sadly still need to watch Lady in the Water.
Oh, yuck.
What?
We're doing a patron bonus series called Shyamalanigans where we're going through all of M. Night Shyamalan's filmography. And sadly, we're up to Lady
In order.
I feel like I got a taste of it here in this episode. Jesus.
And so far, it's not been too rough because we started with we're doing it chronologically. So we've just done The Village. So we're done with all the good stuff now.
You did recommend that his children be stripped of their citizenship in the U.S. and shipped back to their country of origin. So that's pretty. Which Julio's full in favor of as a maggot. So he's like, yeah.
And then next week we will be joined, as mentioned, by Paul from The Countdown, and hopefully Carney from Sanspants Radio will be joining us as well to look at our best movies of the year, as well as our best movies from 10 years ago, 2014. Possibly, we'll see. And that's it from us. We will catch you next week. Thank you so much for joining us. I've been Billy.
I've been Dave.
You guys want to go?
I'm waiting for Julio.
I've been brilliant.
I'm Jason. I love you, Paul. I love you, Paul.